Hi and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. This is going to be my most recent weekly wrap up. So I've been feeling a bit slumpy the past week or so. I don't really know why, to be honest. I think that I've had a bit of a book hangover since I read The Flat Share, I'm not going to lie, because I don't know why, but like Tiffy and Leon just had my whole heart and I loved that book so much that everything I read after that, I was just like, well, it's not quite giving me the same high as The Flat Share did. And then also I've done the Indie Accords and then I've taken part in Indie August. So I've been trying to showcase as many indie authors as possible, which like is brilliant and I've had fun doing that. But my anxiety riddled brain that hates me is like, you do realise that you've still like however many series to try and get finished this year and you've made absolutely no progress on that challenge in about 2 months. And then when I was like, aye, shut up brain, it's fine, it'd be like, you do realise that you just set yourself a self-destruct TBR and you have read like one of the books and you're a couple of months in now, so like maybe you want to do that. And it was just difficult to make my brain shut up because it was making me feel like I was doing a crap job in my reading goals, and so then that was making me just feel a bit slumpy because then I was feeling guilty like if I was picking up an indie book as opposed to picking up a book that I am wanting to read. Like, well, not that I didn't want to read the indie books, but you know what I mean, like one that is going to tick off a goal. And this is what I mean when I say like my brain, like as much as I am a mood reader, like, but if my brain has a goal in mind, it'll try and push me towards that goal. And it was trying to do that and I was trying to like no listen. So that made me a wee bit slumpy, but I still have 2 books to chat to you about. So the first book that I read was I Was a Teenage Ghost Hunter by Brian K. Henry. So this is a spooky middle grade and I had a fun time with it. It was giving me like nostalgia vibes. Like I was imagining when I was reading this that I was like a much younger version of me, you know, wee 9-10-year-old Amy going and getting our goosebumps in our Creepers booksuit and like just looking forward to having a good time and being absolutely terrified. And this is giving me like those vibes, but I guess in a much more modern setting. Oh my god, I've just made myself sound like I'm actually 77. Anyway, so this is about our main character Devin. He is 16 and he works as a barista in a coffee shop in a hotel. And he keeps having what the book calls phase outs, and it's basically where he starts seeing ghosts. And he is trying to not see ghosts. He doesn't want people calling him out for that. He's already a bit of an outsider. He thinks that if people learn he can see dead people, that, you know, they're going to treat him worse than they already do, and so it's something that he is quite concerned about. His friend, who he has been confiding in about all the ghost stuff, who is a bit older, she runs like a supernaturally culty type shop. No culty, occulty. And he's been confiding in her, but he doesn't realise is she's been posting all his stuff on like some sort of supernatural blog, and other people have thoughts and opinions on his abilities, etc. And then there's some like supernatural stuff starting to happen in the town, and him and his friends decide that they are going to form a wee paranormal dream team and they are going to investigate. Now, I think if I read this when I was younger, I would have enjoyed it more than I did. The story was really great, I enjoyed it, and like I say, it was giving me those like nostalgia feels. The only thing that really annoyed me, and I'm finding this with some of the middle grade and YA stuff that I've been reading recently, is the characters were just very annoying and like, they were just trying so hard to be cool. And I just don't really like that. It just makes it really difficult for me to connect. I mean, is it possible that me as a 29-year-old woman would connect with a 16-year-old male protagonist? Maybe no, but I would like it to at least have had an opportunity for me to feel like I could connect with him, and there just wasn't. It was all just very, I don't even know how to describe it, like just very youthy, I guess. And you know, even their names, like Devon, Rex, like it just wasn't for me. I felt like it was trying too hard to be cool and trying too hard to be trendy, and I just didn't enjoy that element of it. But I did like the story. I didn't particularly like any of the characters, so like when it came to times where they were in danger, I was like, kill them off, I didn't care. Like, and so then I guess I didn't really buy into certain elements of that story. And like when there were times where maybe things were getting a wee bit hairy, like I wasn't invested, so therefore the tension was sort of lost on me, and I think that was the biggest downfall of this book for me, because like I say, it was giving me good vibes, and the story was making me feel pretty nostalgic. Maybe if I was a bit younger when I read this, I would have enjoyed it, but unfortunately time machines don't exist. When I was younger, this book didn't exist, so we'll never truly know. But this was a 3-star read for me, because I still did enjoy the story. And then I read Here Comes to Rise by C.C. Penranda. This is from a Scottish author, so I was buzzing to pick this up. And I have heard so many good things. I picked this up originally to take part in Indie Accords, because Ellie from Earl Grey Books had this on her Indie Accords CBR, and she spoke about it quite a bit on her channel in the past, and she just has never got round to picking it up. And so I was like, if she's reading it for Indie Accords, I'm reading it for Indie Accords. And then I didn't read it. So aye, that's great. This is the first part in a series also. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned that this is the first part in a series. I'm not sure I did, but I am not going to continue this series, and therefore I'm not going to count it towards my I seriously need to finish this challenge, because I'm just not going to continue with it, so it's not going to count. Or I'll maybe count it as a starting DNF. So this is also part of a series. I think that this series is still continuing to be published. It isn't like a finished series. Now, before I get into reviewing this book, I just want to say what an amazing job C.C. Penranda has done of the actual book. I think that the fact that this is an indie book, the quality is absolutely amazing, and I think there's a lot of people who say that that's what lets indie books down sometimes, is that they don't look the part. This 1000% looks the part. I mean, the cover is stunning. Oh, I did that. See, I did that the right way that time, did I? No, I didn't. Absolutely stunning. And then underneath the dust jacket, there's artwork here as well, which is just brilliant. And then in the book, there's a map, a decent quality map, and then like before every chapter as well, there's like the wee graphics inside, as you can see, and it's just absolutely stunning. It was a really beautiful book, and I just think that that's really cool considering this is indie, because a lot of indie publishers, you know, can't do things like this in their books, either because of funding or just because they don't have the resources. But this is absolutely stunning. It is really, really beautiful, and so I was pleased about that, because I am an aesthetic bitch. This is a YA fantasy, and like I say, first in a series is continuing. I think there are 3 or 4 parts out at the moment, by a Scottish author, so I was like, right up my street. Unfortunately, this fell a wee bit flat for me, so I was going to do this audibly and physically, like I do with so many of my books these days. So I bought the audiobook through Audible, and I started listening to the audiobook, and I was playing Skyrim at the time, so I maybe wasn't really taking in what was being said, right? That can happen, fine. So I stopped playing Skyrim and was like, right, let's just sit and read. So I just sat and I was listening to it. I redid like the first chapter again, and I still didn't take it in. And so I was like, right, let's do it a third time. And so I listened to like the first chapter or so again, audibly, and sat and had the book in front of me to try and make what was being said sink in. And like that helped, but I just feel like you're sort of dumped into this world in here. And, you know, it's obviously a fantasy, so I get there will be made up locations and made up names and made up words and stuff like that.
If a foreign's tricks at parties, pulls rabbits out of hat.
Magician. Magician.
That's no fucking magician, you fun.
Is it?
It's a place in America.
Michigan.
I just feel like I needed more build up to be able to understand what was happening in here, because I struggled. It was a struggle. Now, it isn't often that I will ever ask for more build up from an author, because I like being dropped in and then finding out what is happening and what is going on. I just didn't think that it worked particularly well in this book. Like, if I need to listen and read the first few chapters of your book 3 times to try and understand what's actually happened, it's probably no great, is it? So, like, I appreciate that I have been feeling slumpy, and so, like, maybe part of that made this book a wee bit more difficult to get into for me. However, like, I have been feeling slumpy for a wee while, and I didn't have that issue with any of the other books that I've read so far this month. So, sort of singles this one out. There was never a point in this book where it clicked for me, where I was like, oh, like, I'm really enjoying this, or I'm really invested in the characters or the world or the magic or the story. It just didn't click for me, unfortunately. It was fairly middle of the road, and I personally didn't feel like there was anything at all original or unique about this story. That sounds very, very harsh, right? Here's the thing though, I usually don't mind YA fantasy if it is a bit tropey and it is a bit similar to what I have read before, right? YA fantasy as a genre is predominantly tropes, and there are certain character types that perform well in YA fantasy settings, and therefore they tend to be written most. I'm fine for that, right? It doesn't need to be hugely original, but there needs to be something about it that I enjoy. And I just didn't really get that with this book, unfortunately. You know, the main character, she was just very annoying. She was very grating, and I say this a lot, you know, I find a lot of female protagonists in YA fantasy to be very annoying and grating, because I think that YA fantasy authors in their heads have like a wee checklist of things that they need to tick off for their main character to be a badass, and like, it's just not really how it works. And it's like, I didn't need XYZ to happen, like, so that I get that she's cool and I should like her. You could just write a cool and likeable character, you know? And so she was just very frustrating, and I felt like her character arc was very frustrating, because I'm not going to give any specific plot spoilers away, by the way, but like, there were times where it was expressed how much she didn't want to get found out. She was worried about people learning her identity, blah blah blah. She was on the run, stuff like that, right? But used a very unique and specific sword that anybody would easily be able to identify her by. Why? I dare say. So that was annoying. Because it's just like a total fucking contradiction and a humongous plot hole, eh? So that annoys me. And then, like, obviously I would never expect every character or every person in real life to be good at everything, right? There's an element of learning. We all constantly learn. It is just a fact of life, whether it is learning new skills or knowledge, like vocabulary, things like that, right? Life is a learning experience. That is fine. But what irks me is when we say a character is really bad at X, and so this person is going to come and teach them X, but then all of a sudden they're a badass overnight. Like, really hate that. Like, female YA fantasy protagonists these days, it's like there is no humility and there is no learning. They need to be perfect. They can't make mistakes. They need to be the fastest, the smartest, the most deadliest, and like they need to have fucking bucketfuls of sass to boot, and it just really annoys me. I didn't like her. I didn't like her main character in this book. I felt like she was very poorly written, and she deserved better, to be honest. You know, the magic system in this book was vaguely interesting, and that is probably the only standout thing to me, because we know I'm a magic system reader. I love a good magic system, and so that was pretty interesting. But again, like, your main character needs help with their magic, and like is like, no, I am not using it, blah blah blah, and then like all of a sudden is just able to do mad nifty tricks like out of the blue without having any special training or, you know, guidance on how to wield this really temperamental and difficult magic system. So yeah, that was frustrating. This was a 2-star for me, and I will not be continuing this series. So these are going to be my reading stats for August. So I read 4 books by female authors, which has made up 57% of my reading this month. 3 books by male authors, which has made up 43% of my reading this month. And then in my ethnicity split, I have read 5 books by white authors, which is 71% of my reading. 1 book by a BAME author, which is 14%, and then 1 book by a Scottish author, which is 14%. I have read 4 books this month which have not been queer, and that is 57% of my reading, and 3 books that were queer, which makes up 43%. Then we can see the types of books that I've been reading this month. So I have read 2 cosy mysteries, I have read 2 fantasies, 1 middle grade, 1 paranormal romance, and 1 YA fantasy. And my books have been 100% series this month. Wow. Then for my ratings breakdown, so paranormal romance has been a 5-star, cozy mystery on average 4-star, middle grade on average 4-star, fantasy 3.5, and YA fantasy coming in at a 2. Again, constantly surprising me that YA fantasy is one of my lowest rated categories, considering it's what I read the most of. At this point, I am wondering, do I even actually like YA fantasy, or what is going on? And then for ethnicity, my BAME ratings were 4, my white rating was 4, and my Scottish author this month was 2, which will pull down my Scottish author average, I think, for the year quite significantly. My gender split, my female authors were rated 3.75 and my male authors were rated 3.67. My queer split, I rated my non-queer books 3.75 and my queer books 3.67, so no a huge amount of difference there. And then overall my ratings for this month in total was 3.71, and every book that I read was part of a series. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!